What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be extremely long, extremely meticulous, extremely in-depth, a lot of extremes in this video. So let's get into it. So this video is going to be about a mod, a convenience mod if you will, on the truck I've been wanting to do since not too long after I got it. As I said in the update video last Tuesday, I don't know when I'm uploading this, it really just depends on how far we get with this job today. It's Friday. There is a lot to do with this job, but it's a convenience mod I've been wanting forever. There's keyless entry, which the truck does not have. It's an XLS trim. It doesn't come with it. Doesn't even have the keypad on the door or anything. I'm on my own there. And then there's push button and remote start. So push button start's a little bit iffy when it comes to like stuff that people would think is okay to put on a car that doesn't have it. So a lot of people are like, well, you should just be happy with the key. Well, I'm a modernist. I like having modern equipment in my car. Basically, we're turning the truck into a modern version of a Gen 1 Sport Trac in a sense. And how we're doing that is with these right here. So this is the kits we'll be using today. So I'll talk about this in a moment, this first box here in a moment. But this is the kit itself. This is I believe it's called Smart Start. Yeah, Smart Start system. It's an SQ886 part number from Amazon. It comes with everything you'll need, remotes. It'll come with the key fobs, the control module, enough wire to run around the state of Georgia, and of course the button itself. So this is the button right here, really nice looking, and it's very clicky. So definitely will know if I hit the button. But it comes with a bunch of features on it, like remote start, the push button. It comes with keyless, of course. I'll go ahead and show you guys the fob. I actually have my normal keys in my pocket, which I have the fob hooked up to right now. So this is the fob. Looks really nice. I actually found out, I was looking at videos of key fobs that are similar to this. It's actually closest to a Lamborghini Huracan key fob. And of course, probably what's used on the Urus as well. So, very interesting. I'm gonna have my mom, because my mom has a vinyl maker, a silhouette, about making a Ford logo to go on the back of this right here. Or Ford Performance, I don't know, we'll work it out. I'm stuck between Ford and Ford Performance, so. So that brings us to our second box here, which is a transponder bypass unit, or as it says, a universal remote start interface module. Basically how this works, this will wire into the ignition switch that this is hooked up to. So it'll be like daisy chaining it. This will go, the button will go to this, which will go to the ignition, which will go to the truck, which will start it. And basically, this is designed to not get rid of the PATS system or passive anti-theft system in the truck, but is designed to bypass it. So basically one of my factory keys, which I have two with me, I have two chip keys, because basically how this works is a PATS system in a car. Most early 2000s Fords, if not all early 2000s Fords, had this system. It is a system where there is an RF chip embedded inside the key that is read by the truck or the car in some cases, like the Mustang. And when you turn the key to run, it reads that chip. So when you turn the key forward to start, it's going off of that chip. It basically like the vehicle is verifying that key belongs to this car and it belongs to you. It's kind of like just basically anti-theft policy thing. So that way you can't get a blank key and start the car. So that's that. Basically how it'll work. One of my factory keys will be in this box, hooked up to this little thing they have in here, and that way when I hit the button, it sends a signal to the key, which then the truck is thinking, oh, there's a key in the ignition, it's okay to start, and then it'll start the truck. And yeah, so we're gonna pull the truck in a moment. All the cars are currently outside of the garage. The Mustang's out, the van's out over there, so that just leaves the Sport Trac to come in. We'll be doing that in a moment, and we'll be getting started with everything. Currently waiting on my dad to get ready to help out. He's doing something. He's probably getting prepared for this because this is a little bit out of his league. My dad is very good at electrical wiring, but he's never done anything like this before. So this is definitely not going to be a one-day job. I'm already expecting this to be a multi-day process, which is why this video is probably going to take over 3 days. It's probably going to go over 2 to 3 days at most of work, because this is not going to be a quick job for sure. And the advantage is this will be done, because without that, I can't go to school. So it's a very interesting mod, but we found that this was the best we could do it because my dad would be home for 3 days. So that's why we're getting on it today. With all that said, I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut the camera off. We're gonna go ahead and get the truck inside in a moment, and then we'll get started. Yeah. So the truck's inside the garage. We closed the door because it's cold. We got the heater going in here. This thing's ridiculous. What was that? Oh, we're getting the lights freak out in there. But this is probably one of the more important steps of this job. Disconnect your battery, people. You're gonna be messing with live wires, and disconnecting your battery, not disconnecting your battery, could be one of the stupidest mistakes you could make, because you will electrocute yourself if you don't do that. If you're doing this job, disconnect your battery. So that's the first thing we're doing. And there goes our light. Go turn that back on. And this is it. There it is. So first thing we gotta do is we've got to probably pry into the door and get under the steering column. I don't know what the plan is. We're just gonna see how this goes. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into this, and I'll update you guys on exactly once we get started wiring, and I'll go more into detail what you need to take off to get started. So first things first, take off this lower dash panel. Sorry for how zoomed in it is right now, but we have to take this piece of the dash off. There's a couple of screws in there to hold that on, and of course there's clips, and then that will give you access underneath the dash. That way it's a little bit easier to get the bottom of the steering column to clear. So that's the first thing you need to take off. So the next thing to take off is the metal shield underneath the main plastic. So once you got all those clips taken out, your hood release and your OBD2 port will be completely loose. I believe, from what I remember, I think they're like 8mm bolts. Is that correct? I think so. So once you get that metal shielding off, then the bottom of the steering column should be a lot more accessible. Hopefully we'll be able to pop that off and get the ignition wires and all that stuff. So now this is the bottom of the steering column. What size bolts are these? Phillips head. They're Phillips head screws, so that's easy. Once these are off, the wiring system for the ignition system should be pretty clear. The only thing that we're going to need to figure out is a method to turn the steering lock off. Now, there's multiple methods I've seen. The 91 Explorers, there's like a little gear you can turn. And a lot of people will just cut a key at the blade and permanently leave it on run. Now, I don't want to do that because I like to have at least one key to where if the battery dies and for some reason if the push button system doesn't have a fail safe to unlock the door so the battery dies, I can still pop the door open and come and pop my hood, jump it off. Because I don't know. I didn't see anything in the instructions about that or the product description or anything. So once you have those two Phillips heads out, it should just pop right out. And yeah, so we're going to get to that. And then we'll really get into the wiring. I moved the kit to the inside of the truck. It's back here in the back seat with all the keys and stuff the truck has. It has the factory key over here. That's probably the one I'm going to try the most to salvage. We have a spare key, which is an aftermarket key that we can put in there and in that box. But if it doesn't fit, because it is quite big, we'll go ahead to the factory key in there because we won't have any other options. So yeah, we're going to get ready to start on that and get to the hard part of this whole thing. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to take the dash out. So there's two 7mm on the radio bezel. I usually don't leave stuff hanging like this, but since we're not disconnecting the radio and all that stuff, there's no point. And then there is some 8mm, like I was saying earlier, for the metal tray right here. And then you want to move the truck into first, or I think it's in second right now. And then there is a couple bolts right here. I forget what he said, how big they were. And then this all comes off. This is also the way you can change your gauge cluster out if you wanted to. Not that I would recommend messing with your gauges. It's difficult. But anyway, that's that. We're going to get started on the wiring portion and finding out where the steering lock goes and all the crucial important tidbits. So let's get into that. All right, guys, so in updates, we have gotten pretty much everything related to the ignition out of the truck. So I digested the locking mechanism I was going to show you. Is it still in the cup holder? Or is that it right there? Okay, so how this worked is that box right here was hooked up to the ignition switch. This is the switch itself with my key still inside of it.
Wait, is that an all-in-one?
This guy?
No, the other system. Like door, keyless entry and everything?
Uh-huh.
Why didn't you buy that?
It is.
Why didn't you buy that in the first place?
That's a good question. But the fellas have joined. I didn't think I actually got them on video. So we have a full house to watch this action go down. So this is right here is what controlled the steering lock. It was hooked up to, I think you said there was this pin, this metal pin. So this is key off. Oh, that might be accessory right there. I think that's accessory. This is key off. Then I know that wasn't. I don't know how this works. But anyway, this pin would slide. So say I think this is key off. So you go from key off to run, which would lock the steering wheel up or disable the lock, and that way when you turn the key off, yeah, there's accessory right there. That back click. So that's off. That's when your steering wheel will lock up. So yeah, it's a very convoluted process, but he undid a crap ton of stuff. In the meantime, we were outside just chatting with my mom. Basically, everything's out. We're getting ready to start setting up what we need for the. We're currently taking apart the transmitter box to communicate with the keyless, or the keyless, the button to start the truck. So basically, there should be somewhere in the instructions that said there was a slot you can put a key in. Where would that be? There, it's I think right here. Maybe, I don't know. Somewhere in the instructions it said that. But Michael was saying about taping a key to the top of the steering column too.
No, to the inside. Huh?
What were you saying about putting the key in there?
Wait, if it already has everything included to not have to worry about it, then don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because the little chip in there, I was saying that if you didn't have the thing, you had to have the key next to it so it would start.
Mm-hmm.
You just tape it to the inside of the steering column cover. To the inside, that way it's always next to it.
Yeah, that's one thing we could do if we can't figure that out. Yeah, so there's the ignition switch. I'm gonna figure out how to get my key out of there because that's the key I want to put in there because I won't lose my factory key. Now we don't have any steering lock, so now to demonstrate my poor Nexans, you can come in here and just without power steering, so it's heavy. It's so heavy. So that's that. So we don't have steering lock, so I can turn the wheel however which way I want to. But obviously there's no power steering right now, so it ain't turning. So that's that. We'll move on and we'll get into the actual wiring. So unfortunately our box seems to not work. So what we're doing is this is the sensor for the PATS system we've got right here. We're zip tying my spare key inside of it. That way it don't come flying out. And it reads that there's a key in the truck at all times. So that way there's a switch right here, the switchboard I was showing you earlier. He unhooked it. And now, okay, so now you see the theft light. He legit just started the truck with a switch. So now the thing's running. So there we go. So that's how we're gonna make this thing not read the chip, or read the chip. The box did not work whatsoever. So that's I think the hardest part of this whole thing. So we got the steering lock disconnected. We've got our PATS system problem resolved. So now the fun part of wiring in the button itself, as well as the modules to detect the key, and of course the keyless entry, are about to start up. So we've got the button already in here to hardwire that into the switch panel here. So that way it hits the button, it sends a signal, fires the truck up. So it's gonna be fun. Oh, this is really zoomed in. Oh, hold on. But so that's that. We're about to get started with the actual kit. And thankfully it's got a wiring diagram to kind of tell us what wires go to which for the system. So, I mean, of course I don't think we're doing it that way. So Michael, would you like to go cross-eyed for fun? There we go, I guess. That's going in the video. Is it gonna be the Fortnite dance that you were doing for a little while? You'd only do it when I wasn't filming you, like so. Okay, so we're just gonna hop into that. The way we're doing this is gonna be different than most people do. So we're gonna be we're definitely going more in depth with this now. So people know what they're doing, but yeah, let's get into it. All right, update time. So we are working on building basically our own wiring diagram for this setup. as we couldn't find any. So anyone who's wanting to do this on a Gen 1 truck, we've got you covered. So the red and green you said was the starter, and the yellows, you have 4 yellows, which are all battery, right? So you just pick one you want to splice into. Which one is the brown? Was the ground?
Well, it's not a constant ground.
Not a constant ground. Is that what we're looking for? Is the constant one? Okay, so it is a ground, but it's not constant. So that's basically, I think, some of the important stuff. But he's able to start it, like I said, off that switch right now. He's already checked the starter, so that's good. All this is coming together really well. The harness, basically the reason we're checking for these is so we can splice the harness in for the entire system, the locks, the remote start, all that stuff is going to go through these wires right here. So we've pretty much figured out the majority of what we need right now. So I'll come back to you in case we find, or like once he gets a full diagram finished, and I'll show it on camera so you guys can have a reference for it. So we'll come back then. Alright guys, a little bit of an update. I haven't been doing this in a while, but we've gotten the system to get power. Our problem is getting the truck to actually start. Now we've got it wired up to a hot wire, that way you know, that brake sensor is getting power. But the problem we're running into is you hit the button, it acts like it wants to start, and you can hear it like cut off kind of to actually try to turn the starter, but the problem is the starter is not doing a thing. So we're trying to source that out right now and see what's going on with that. And that's really the only thing we have left to deal with the push button itself is the brake sensor, getting it wired in, and all that, figure out what's going on with the starter. So I'll catch you guys whenever we do figure it out. As for the wiring diagram, I'll probably grab it from him once he's done and check it out. Alright guys, so that wraps up day 1 of the video. We basically are at a standstill where we were earlier. Trying to figure out the starting wire. We have the box disconnected, the module, right now. That way we can try to source what's going on. I have a theory that he may have hooked up the wire in the wrong spot. At least for the starter's case. Everything else seems to be working fine. We can't confirm that, of course. So we'll be trying to park tomorrow at some point or another. My dad can't confirm what's going on at all yet. So I may be wrong. I think there's a possibility things might be working right. Things might not be working right. I don't know. Obviously the truck's not starting up though. So that's the problem we're dealing with. So I'm gonna come back to you guys tomorrow for the rest of this. Hopefully we'll have it done by tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, catch up with you guys tomorrow. All right, guys, welcome to day 2 of the push button start, remote start, keyless entry setup. And today we basically are starting off. We've tore everything back apart, not entirely. We literally just unhooked the wires to the module. We're checking to see exactly what's going on because basically we have accessory, key on, and all that stuff working. But the problem we're running to is that we hooked the brake wire up to a hot wire and then hit the button to try to start the truck, and it's not firing up. So we found another wiring diagram we're using. I'll see if he can screenshot it and send it to me so I can put it on screen for the video now that I have Premiere working again. But if this doesn't work, we're putting the old system back on, the switch. And if that doesn't work, then we know that one of 2 things could have happened, there's multiple possibilities what could have happened. But the main thing we're checking to see is if the relay's gone bad to the starter. Because basically when we were checking that switch out and making sure that it worked, that this setup would work, we started the truck several times back to back, and we both are thinking maybe something happened with that. Maybe, I don't know. He knows more about this stuff than I do, but so he's currently getting everything set up. I think he actually, yeah. Basically all we've got hooked up for the push button right now is the ground wire, and besides that, that's the only thing that's hooked up right now. Basically this is gonna be the the main stuff today. We're gonna try to get this finalized, figure out what was going on with the starter wire and all that. So anyway, I'm gonna cut this off for now. We're gonna go on until we figure out everything, and yeah, so we'll catch you guys in a minute. Okay, so we have a development. She's alive. Why's the ABS light on?
Probably one of the wires that they hooked up.
Probably the brake wire. Man, so now it's running off the button. So definitely a good development there. I have no clue what he did. I went inside for a minute just to get out of his way so he could do his work. And I hear the truck start, and I thought it was because he was trying to check that out. And he's like, "Oh, I'm surprised you didn't come out here. Come out here, and that's on the floor." I'm like, "Oh, well." So that's good news. The button is now operational. So I guess that concludes that piece. So now we just gotta continue on from there. I gotta figure out what the ABS light's doing on now. Like we were saying, we think it's a wire he had hooked up somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and continue on with the job. And yeah. So in the last clip, we noticed that the ABS light was on. You probably heard me say it in the last clip. We found out that there is a wire in there that has to have power and the truck's running to turn the ABS light off. Because what we did, we touched it to the power wire, the battery wire. There's 2 battery wires. Or they said there were like 4, didn't you? There's like 4 yellow wires. Yeah. So your choice of 4. We touched it to one of the other 3 power wires, and the light went off. So apparently in the ignition switch, there's a power wire for the ABS system. So basically, I could have gone out and done donuts just now. Not really. I would have killed myself if I tried. So we're gonna splice that into the brown wire that we have hooked up to the ignition to start the truck. That way, whenever the truck's running, that light's off. So excuse my cough. I'm getting kind of sick from being out in the cold last night. So quick and easy fix. We just gotta splice that wire in. So all in all though, besides putting the brake wire in, we're done with the push button itself. So basically, I'm gonna have to get a picture of the wiring diagram he used so I can have it on video for you guys. I've already put it on screen if I've gotten it. If not, the these are actually the wires themselves over here. So the brown wire you see is hooked up to, which wire was that one hooked up to?
Nothing yet.
What one was hooked up? The ignition, what color is that?
Brown, and it needs to go to brown and orange and black.
So brown and orange goes to, orange and black is the brown wire for ignition.
It'd be easier once I get all the yellow cribs out of it.
Yeah.
Because they all look the same.
Okay, gotcha.
That's just temporary.
Gotcha. So we'll go more over the wiring before we put it all back together. One thing we did want to take care of though before we put the dash back in was to change out the gauge cluster lights. Mine are bad. Basically anything past about 75, 80 miles an hour on the speedometer is gone. Well, it actually started working recently. When we did the radio, actually, the 100 and 120 area started lighting up again. But still the oil pressure and the battery voltage are gone. Those don't work at all. And luckily, unfortunately for us, the AutoZone up the road, we literally live like 2 minutes from an AutoZone. They don't carry anything that small. But O'Reilly's down, way farther down towards Hayden and Michael's houses, they do carry it. So we'll be going over there probably sometime in like the next couple of days, depending on the timeline to put the dash back in, because we are going to probably need to keep it disassembled so we can put the keyless in over in this door. So yeah, it's gonna be fun though. We're probably gonna do LEDs in the gauge cluster just to change it to a blue color. I don't really dim my gauge lights that much, so yeah, it doesn't really bother me that much. So Michael swears by them. He says they're good and they won't blind you while driving. So I trust him on that one because he did have them in the Jeep. But we'll try it out and see how it looks because I really want to do lights because I thought that was cool looking. Plus, I've always had my radio on green because of it to match. So anyway, guys, we're gonna shut this off for now, get the wiring finalized, and then I'll come in and do a full wiring tutorial. Granted, the color of the wires for the kit you buy may be different depending on what kit you do buy. This is, like I said, the 360B sellers kit on Amazon. So we bought it from them, 70 bucks. This will be basically what exactly you'll be looking at. So yeah, so we'll cut this off. We'll come back with a full diagram wiring setup in a few. And yeah. Okay, so we checked out everything. The wiring is pretty much finalized. We're doing some last minute adjustments because we tested the remote start to make sure it worked. It does work, but the problem is it sends repetitive signals to the starter and it goes anytime, like after a few seconds, as if it's like, I hold the button once, it starts, and then the system's like, oh, it's not running yet, let's start it again. Oh, it's not running yet, let's start it again. So it's repeatedly sending signals to the starter to start the truck. So we're trying to figure out what's going on. Maybe it has something to do with other stuff. We don't know yet, really. We're kind of just sending it at this point. Just trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, we're trying to keep it from chewing up the starter at least. But so far everything looks okay. The wiring is good, minus the remote start. It won't do it when the button's pressed. We checked it. You know, that's not grinding out the starter at all. So we're really confused on what it is. So yeah, we'll come back to you guys in a minute once we've gotten that figured out, and we'll be good to go. Literally 2 minutes later, that's fixed. Basically, there is a wire that goes to the remote, that is specific to the remote start, that needed to be spliced into the key on 1 wire that it has. So we didn't know that, and that's what was causing the starter to grind when it was on remote start, because we didn't get it on camera just in case it did it, but we checked it again. We just remote started it, didn't grind the starter out. So that's always good. So right now we're just working on completely finalizing the wiring all together. We've got the lock wires rolled up, so that way they're out of his way. Of course, we still got to put in the antennas at some point. That's going to be easy though. One just goes in the back, one just goes in the front. So when it comes down to the actual push button itself, it is finished. I'll get in here once we actually get the wiring finalized completely. All the connectors are permanently connected, because right now he's got these weird like twisty thingies on it, and that's kind of his temporary work, just to make sure things work right. So once that's all done, we'll throw the permanent stuff in, and that's done. The push button itself is done. Which in that move, we'll probably either start on the gauge cluster or we'll start on the locks. I don't know which, that's up to him. But besides that, really, the hard part's over. The locks are gonna be quite simple, besides actually getting to the lock motor. As we've already tried installing keyless, which is what led me to get this kit in the first place, we couldn't probe which wire on the switch unlocked the car and which one locked the car. So that was our problem we were running into with that. But really, besides all that, we've got this solved. So we're gonna go ahead and finalize everything. I'll come in and do that wiring shot I told you about, and then we'll either move on to locks or gauge cluster, whichever comes first. So yeah, see you guys in a minute. Update time. So we just got done eating lunch. We took a break. We went over to the parts store, picked up some bulbs for the gauge cluster. That way I can have fresh lights in there, because those chunks are all blown out. So we'll be doing that. We got more connectors so we can finalize the wiring for the button. And then I have no clue what we're moving on to. I think if we have time, we'll knock out the locks today. If not, I'll carry around a key until we can get it done. That way, I can still get in the truck. Basically, how it's set up right now, every feature works. Remote start works without having to have the doors locked. Basically, if the module thinks it's locked, it'll start. But anyway, we don't even have the brake wire hooked up. We decided to bypass that altogether. So now I literally just hop in and hit the button, the truck runs. So because it's an automatic, when it's in park, it's not going anywhere. There's no need to put the brake on. So, unless for some reason my parking pole breaks and I'm screwed. But anyway, as I was saying, basically, like I said, we're just going to finalize all the wiring and get everything set up for the permanent setup that it will have. as well as, you know, putting the gauge lights in. The harness, unfortunately, is prohibiting us from taking the cluster all the way out, so we're gonna have to swap those bulbs out with it inside the truck, which is gonna be a literal pain in the balls. So anyway, once he gets everything finalized, once we get the gauge cluster back in, I'll go ahead and show you guys the wiring and all that, like I said earlier. Because like I said, we're just now starting to finalize everything. So once that's done, I'll hop back on the camera and we'll show off a little bit more. And yeah, so we'll get that done. Basically just a look at everything as it stands right now. So it's a bit of a mess, but thankfully it's not too hard to put back together. So anyway, we'll catch up to you guys and with that wiring diagram set up and actually need it this time. All right, guys, so I meant to get the wiring harness like in action for you guys, but it worked a little bit too fast for me to think, and he's already got it all tucked away and mounted completely. So now we're just gonna put the button in. I mean, he does have a sheet where he has all the wires listed that you need to hook up. So if I haven't put that earlier in the video, I'll do that now, even though I probably already have, because I'll remember. But basically, we just finished out changing the cluster lights. In case you wanted to know how it is, there are 4 in the actual cluster area to get the cluster out. Now, unfortunately, my truck being an XLS does not have tilt and steering wheel, so we couldn't get the cluster completely out. So we had to change them all with everything still hooked up and the cluster still inside. So that made it a bit more difficult, but he still got it done very fast. But so now I have fresh cluster lights, and we also have everything situated. We've gotten the placement for our push button start button actually chosen. I have no idea where he put it. He just said he put it somewhere. Yeah, so we're probably, once he gets that bolted back in, we're probably gonna start reassembly of the dash, and then at least, I don't know. I think we still have to do the locks, of course, but there's no telling if we've got that in the agenda for today or not. That thankfully is literally just 2 wires, so that will not take long at all to set up once we get to where we need to get to. So yeah, with all that said, we're gonna go ahead and get everything put back together. I'll come back to you guys when the dash is all put back in, unless we do the locks before then, in which case I'll come to you guys then. But we are nearing completion of this huge job. And also, before anyone points out the oil down here, basically what's happened is the truck is slightly overfilled with oil again. I don't know how it happened, but it did. So it does shoot it out a little bit at startup. So that's that. It's still full. We just checked it, hence the towel. So it's fine. It's just a little full. It's safe though. We checked it, we made sure, and he said it was safe as it is right now. It's not too full. So, I mean, it's still overfull, but it's not dangerously overfull. So, anyway, that's that. So just making sure that's out of the way before anyone points it out. It's like, oh, you got an oil leak. Yeah, I know. But first things first, whenever we get this thing out of here, when it's finished, I'm definitely getting it cleaned, because you can see just off the little heater light we have, the thing is disgusting. I haven't washed it in several weeks. But yeah, so all in all, everything's working though. Like I was saying earlier, the push button works, the remote start works. Basically everything but the locks work. So yeah, like I said, we'll come back to you guys and everything's put back together, unless we do the locks before then, in which case I'll come to you guys then. So yeah, just wanted to give you guys an update and tell you guys what's going on. All right, guys, so we went ahead and went to the locks. We decided not to go through the driver's side kick panel, as it has like 1,005 wires. So we decided to go through the passenger side kick panel. And the wires you would want to cut to install this setup's wiring on it would be the pink and yellow for unlock and pink and green for lock. No, it's the other way around. Pink and green was unlock, pink and yellow was lock. So that's what you want to do. You want to splice into those. That way you have controls at your doors and, of course, with the buttons on the remote as well. So this is basically our last road hurdle, and then we can tuck the wires up, put the kick panels back on, put the lower dash on, and we're done. So not much left. We decided to mount the module down in here underneath my center console, this part, the carbon wrap part that we've done. And the button, I was wanting to put it right here on the cigarette lighter on my radio. You guys can't see that well, it's kind of dark in here. Hold on a sec, there we go. So you can kind of see it. But this area right here is where I wanted the button originally, but we found the button was a little bit big. So we decided to put it right here on where the original key was. So that's that. So yeah, we're gonna finish wiring this up, put the lower dash on, and we'll be finished with this install. Well guys, after almost 2 days and a lot of figuring things out, going by ear, playing by ear, as basically this musicians like to say, we have finally finished. Everything is installed. The push button is working, the remote start is working, locks are working, the horn is working, as I've already been the victim of it a few times. Now all we gotta do is put the fuse box cover back on, drop the hood, and she's good to drive. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching this video. Hope you guys learned more than enough to do this. I know I tried to be a little bit in depth, but he worked a lot faster than I could think sometimes. So I did show the wiring diagram itself. Obviously you guys have probably already seen it at this point. I meant to show the actual wires themselves, but like I said, he'd worked way too fast for me to think. So no big deal though, it all got done. I still showed you guys what y'all needed to know. And I'm excited. I mean, I cannot wait to go out and drive this thing. It's dark out already because it's 6 o'clock and the fall weather in Georgia does this to me. But anyway, guys, that wraps it up for the video. I'm probably going to include an outtake. I'm about to head over to Hayden's. I talked to my mom about it already before I left, or before I got out here. So he'll get to see it. I'll have his reaction to it, remote starting for the first time, and all that stuff, or for the first time he'll hear it. So yeah, with all that said, guys, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time.